Your child will not magically start practicing on their own day one. In fact, they won't be practicing on their own by day 101. I promise. You've got dreams for your kid. You want them to grow up to be a successful contributor to society rather than just a successful contributor to their Fortnite squad. Although, full disclosure, I'm pretty good at Fortnite myself. I'm okay, and the kids are never impressed. You want your kiddo to figure out who they are. You want them to become confident in who they are as a person, no matter what path they take. You want them to be self-disciplined and hardworking. And the cool thing is, that's what we do all day, every day at Fort Worth Music Academy. We give kids a safe place to be more creative, to grow their confidence, and to become more self-disciplined, not just in music, but in life and as a person. We do this through a long-term commitment to their instrument, and even though for most parents, what they tell me is that they're not primarily concerned with their child becoming a professional musician or going to music school, what they're most concerned about is, can my child be successful on this instrument and grow in their confidence as a person? That seems to be the number one concern of parents. And let me know in the comments below if that is you. Or maybe it's something else. What is most important to you as a parent in considering music lessons for your child? So anyway, that's the thing that I hear the most. So it's a long-term commitment to the instrument, but just know it is a long process. It's a very long process. And so today I want to reset your expectations as a parent coming into music lessons so that you don't come in thinking your child is going to be this incredibly gifted player within a couple of months. I want you to have a good idea of what to expect over the course of the first 6 months, the first 2 years, 5 years, and then even 10 years. Your child will not magically start practicing on their own day one. In fact, they won't be practicing on their own by day 101. I promise. Okay, let's talk about the first 6 months of lessons, at least here with us at Fort Worth Music Academy, and what you can expect. The first time you guys come in, your kiddo is going to be so excited for music lessons. They might be a little shy, they might be a little nervous, but for sure by the time they leave here, they're going to be excited to come back. They're going to be ready to get started on their instrument right away. And you'll be excited for them to start practicing daily and really tap into that untapped potential. Except they won't practice. And we'll get to that. They'll enjoy their lessons right away. They'll always look forward to coming to see us, unless you had to pry an iPad out of their surprisingly strong hands. And they'll always leave their lesson happy. And if they don't leave their lesson happy, that's why we have our "this better be good" money back guarantee. You can see details about that on our website. So your kiddo's gonna be enjoying their lessons with us, but the one thing they won't enjoy is practicing at home. It's the most common frustration that I hear from parents. I'll be talking with them in the lobby and say, "So how's everything going?" And they're like, "We're really happy. My kiddo's loving their lessons. They're loving their teacher. We feel very comfortable in this environment. But I gotta share with you, Eric, the thing my kid doesn't like is they really hate practicing at home." And to that, I always tell them, well, of course, it's no surprise because they have so many other options for entertainment and how to spend their time. They're not going to naturally just start doing something that's hard. It takes time to instill this habit, or rather, from somebody, I didn't come up with this, but they say, install the habit. We're going to install the knowledge and the habit into your child. And it takes time for that installation process to complete. As we all know, any of us that's ever tried to lose weight or save money on a regular basis, if you're not in the habit of doing that, sometimes there can be some false starts. You do it for a little bit, and then you fall off, and then you do it for a little bit. Even as adults, it takes a long time for us to change our habits. So for kids, it can be even harder because they're not used to being self-disciplined in a regular way without a teacher or a parent or a mentor or some kind of a guide to regularly oversee whatever it is that they are doing. Kids just are not naturally self-disciplined. We have to teach it to them. So after like 2 or 3 months, you may start to worry that your child just doesn't have natural talent. They do. Or that they simply don't want to play their instrument. They do. The challenge is just they haven't experienced enough success from practicing on their own that it's worth the investment to them. Once they start to see the results of practicing over a long period of time, then they start to get more and more excited about experiencing those results again. So if you think about like a video game, when kids are playing video games, the video game developers know, at least the successful ones, know that they got to get those dopamine hits right away for your kid. And so they reward them very quickly just by doing a basic task. Okay, so in our lessons here at the music school, we try to give you a little behind the scenes of some of the psychology that goes into it, but we try to give them these quick wins and reward them quickly so that they're feeling good about the process. Well, the problem is when they're at home doing it by themselves, they're not getting that sense of regular, those dopamine hits or that feeling of regular reward. So why would they choose that over something like a video game or being on an iPad or even playing outside with their friends? They get a much quicker hit of that dopamine rather than from the hard work that goes into music. Because sometimes when you practice, you don't see a result every single day. Those results, sometimes you see a result that same day. You'll pretty regularly in the beginning, especially, see results each week from practicing. But kids don't have enough foresight to really think about the result they're going to get at the end of a week. Okay, I don't want to make this too much about practice habits and all of that, but that's kind of what it's like in the beginning. So really all we need to do in the beginning is get your child in the habit of picking up or playing their instrument every single day. So it may be just for 5 minutes. It may be that they're only playing through their song or exercise, whatever they're working on, 1, 2, or 3 times. Anything is better than nothing. We just have to start getting them in the habit. It's kind of like my son with brushing his teeth. Sometimes it's a fight just to get him to put the toothpaste on the toothbrush and stick it in his mouth. And he may not make it to the 2 minutes, but by golly, I'm going to make sure he's in the habit of at least getting that toothbrush in his mouth every day. Okay, so you've got 4 options for how you want to handle practicing at home with your child. Option number 1 is hope that they do it and then blame them when they don't, which they won't. Option 2 is to just make them do it, and you just got to be ready for the complaining that's going to happen if you take this approach. Option number 3 is to ask them to play a quick concert for you each day. And option number 4 is to sit down and make music with them. Okay, so of these options, which ones do you think are the best? You got it, my friend. Options 3 and 4 really are the best. Ask your kiddo to perform for you. Maybe you're making dinner, you're getting ready to run an errand, and you're like, hey, while I'm getting ready for this, or while I'm cooking, or whatever activity you're in the middle of, say, hey, would you play a song for me? I'd like to hear some music while I'm doing this thing. Your kiddo will like that. And option number 4. Sitting down to make music with them. This is definitely easiest if someone in your household, if mom or dad, or a loved one, or a family friend, or parent guardian, someone that is close to them already knows how to play music. No matter what instrument they're playing, even if they're on different instruments, if they sit down and they make music together, that's pretty much the best scenario that exists. So option 1 of hoping your child is going to practice is just utterly hopeless, because there are very, very few kids that will practice on their own. Now, I know you probably hope your kid is going to be the one. Like, Eric, you don't understand. My kid really has talent. My kid's going to be the one to practice on their own. Maybe, but probably not. Even if you think that they are, they probably won't. If they do, awesome, run with it. I love it. But 9 times out of 10, they're not going to. So I just don't want you to end up your child being disappointed because they didn't live up to your unrealistic expectations for them, and then also you being disappointed in yourself as a parent or disappointed in your child for not living up to those expectations. So we want to just take option one of expecting them to practice on their own completely off the table, okay? So that's non-negotiable. Don't expect them to practice on their own. Now, option two of forcing your child to practice is actually okay when used in tandem with options 3 and 4. Okay, so here is why forcing your child to practice music is actually okay. As your child grows up, they will frequently be in situations where they have to do things they simply don't want to do. And you know, and I know because we can relate as adults. We have to do things we don't want to do all the time. And rather than try to avoid these things that we have to do, it's better to mentally prepare ourselves as we're growing up and developing and getting in the habit of just having good self-discipline so that we can mentally sort of brace ourselves for doing these things we don't want to do. Now, one concern I get from parents is that their child's experience of music will be ruined if they force their child to practice. And this will only happen if you allow them to quit before the results come. So if you force them to practice, they have a miserable experience, and then you let them quit because of the complaining and the whining that's happening, and you don't want to fight with them anymore, then yes, they will remember music as being a miserable experience and how they failed at doing it, and it just wasn't in them. So if you are going to make them practice, you have to make sure you get through this initial just terrible period where they really don't want to do it and they're fighting with you every step of the way. But once the habit is set and they start experiencing those results, they will love it. And they will look back on those harder times in the beginning and say, oh, all that difficulty in the beginning was worth it because here's the result I see now. And there is almost no more powerful agent than that for somebody becoming successful as an adult in whatever they do. So, a word of warning, this may take 18 to 24 months for the habit to really set in for your child and for them to stop complaining and whining about the practicing. I know this from personal experience. I went through this with my daughter, who is currently 12 at the time of this recording. She was 5. So 7 years ago, we started piano lessons at my music school. I run a music school. How could I not make her take lessons? And I forced her to practice. I just made her do it whether she wanted to or not. Lessons were fun. We always had a good time in lessons. She always had fun playing in concerts. We had fun anytime we did like a musical project together. But when it came down to like, hey, you just have to practice this assignment, she did not enjoy that. And she fought me for about 18 months on this. But the cool thing is now here we are 7 years later. She currently doesn't have time for piano lessons because she's in band and theater at school. But she's been asking me, Daddy, I want to come back to piano lessons. And I'm like, well, when those things free up, we can totally do that. And she will now, on her own, go to the piano. She'll figure out songs that she hears, like from her favorite TV shows. She'll be like, Daddy, look, I figured out this melody. She'll make up melodies. She'll revisit classical pieces of music, like some Beethoven and Mozart that she's previously learned. And it's really, really cool to see that now at this age. The other awesome benefit is that she is very comfortable on stage in front of lots of people. When it comes to like just getting on stage and performing for tons and tons of people, she's like, yeah, she's been doing it since she was 5. So it's like nothing to her. And that is also really powerful for people as they become adults, whether they're introverted or extroverted. Being comfortable speaking in front of large groups of people is really a cool skill to have. So anyway, my point is in these first couple of years, you got to start small and stick with it. Your child's success ultimately will not come down to their commitment, but it will come down to your commitment, okay? And then, of course, our commitment to you is that we're going to be with you every step of the way. Okay, so 2 years in to your child taking lessons, give or take, they should stop complaining and whining by this point. When you tell them to go practice, they should just naturally be doing it on their own. Now, they won't necessarily practice without prompting. They're not just going to think, oh, it's time for me to go practice. But when you tell them to practice, they will just start to do that on their own. They should be feeling more confident in their playing. And at like family get-togethers, when friends come over, they should be playing for people. They should be comfortable playing on stage. They should be feeling really good about who they are and sounding quite good as a musician as well. Okay, 5 years in, your child should now be practicing completely on their own without you telling them to. If they're not, we need to address that. But most of the time, this is when the child is now, they're usually starting to come into their teenage years. If they've started with us when they were about 7 or so. It's different for everybody, but usually by about age 12, 13, or if they've been taking lessons for about 5 years, that's when they start to practice on their own. They start having more performance opportunities. They might be, if they're creative and embracing it, they might be writing some of their own songs. They should be very good as a musician by this point. And we've seen that over and over at the music school. Lots of students that have made it to the 5-year mark that are very good at what they do. Okay, at the 10-year mark. Now, I have to admit, I've only experienced students being with us for 10 years 3 times so far, but to be fair, I've only been teaching professionally for about the last 12 years or so. So I would say not everybody's going to make it to that 10-year mark. It's pretty common for students to make it to the 2-year mark, no problem, and definitely about that 5-year mark. But getting to the 10-year mark, this takes true commitment. But by this point, your soon-to-be adult will be very, very confident in their skills. They've probably performed a lot. They've probably performed at a lot of venues around Fort Worth with us and had some recording opportunities with us and gotten to do some really cool things. And so they've probably started making some connections. And if they want to be a performer, they are out and about gigging on their own, playing maybe at least here in this area, at their church. A lot of kids at our music school start playing in their churches, playing in local coffee shops, playing at their school. They're really starting to embrace who they are, and it's about the coolest feeling in the world, being able to look back when that child just started with the 5 minutes a day of practicing and could barely hit a note, and now they're going to music school, or they're thinking about a career in music, or they're doing something completely different from music, but they are a successful young adult, and they're still making music. So our promise to you at Fort Worth Music Academy is that this process works like clockwork. I see the same things over and over again. The first 2, 3, 6 months, those really are the hardest, and you just got to get through those. Like I said, they're going to have fun at their lessons, but everything kind of outside of that can be kind of a challenge, especially when it comes to practicing at home. And then, though, after a couple of years, they're going to be feeling real good about who they are as a player. And then after 5 years, they're feeling really confident, and they're really starting to sound amazing as a musician. And then at the 10-year mark, man, they're just off and running, and it's a really cool experience. It takes a lot of time, a lot of commitment on your part, especially as the parent. And just know we're going to be with you every step of the way. You can always call us or email us if you have any questions. Talk to your teacher. Let's just stay in communication over the years, and the more we do that, the more successful your child is going to become. Okay, last thing before I let you go. People often ask me the question, don't you get tired of teaching beginners? Well, the answer is no. And here's why. I can watch somebody play Ode to Joy over and over and over again all day long because I know what the end result is going to be every time. I'm not wondering, does this child have it? Are they going to be successful? Well, the answer is yes. it's just a numbers game. The longer they stay with us and the longer they train and the sooner they start to practice at home, the more successful they're going to be. And even if they don't practice at home that much, we have students who didn't practice hardly at all outside of lessons for the first few years. Was their progress very slow in the beginning? Yes. But they eventually became really good too. It will happen. You just have to give it enough time, and we'll be here with you every step of the way. And so when your child is first starting out and not sounding very good and you're wondering, is my kid going to be successful? Just know that I know they will be, and so does our whole team here at Fort Worth Music Academy, because we've seen the process over and over and over again, and that is our promise to you. All right, if you've got questions, you can call us, 817-420-6462. You can also email me directly, eric@fortworthmusicacademy.com. Check out our website, fortworthmusicacademy.com. We look forward to meeting you, and if you just signed up for lessons with us, we look forward to working with you, hopefully for many years to come.